As an airman stationed at the military base near Point Pleasant, I thought my nights would be filled with routine paperwork and the occasional late-night coffee run. But one fateful evening, I found myself at the center of a spine-tingling encounter that I'll never forget. It was a quiet night at the base, with most of the personnel tucked away in their barracks or out on patrol. I was manning the front desk, idly flipping through paperwork and trying to stay awake, when I heard a faint tapping at the window. Startled, I glanced up to see a dark figure looming outside, its shape obscured by the shadows of the night. My heart leaped into my throat as I realized what I was looking at: the Mothman. Now, I'm no stranger to spooky stories, but seeing the Mothman outside my window was enough to make my blood run cold. I could feel its glowing eyes boring into me, sending a chill down my spine that no amount of military training could prepare me for. As fear gripped me, I scrambled for the phone, my fingers shaking as I dialed the base commander's number. But before I could even utter a word, the Mothman spread its wings and vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone with my stupid thoughts. For the rest of the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the Mothman was still out there, lurking in the shadows and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I tried to focus on my duties, but every creak of the floorboards and rustle of the curtains sent shivers down my spine. It was as if the Mothman's presence lingered in the air, a constant reminder of the terror that had unfolded just hours before. When morning finally dawned, I breathed a sigh of relief, grateful that the night was over and the Mothman had vanished without a trace. But as I glanced out the window one last time, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a nightmare that would haunt me for years to come.
The Unwelcome Visitor, Mothman's Night of Mischief. It was a peaceful evening in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and my girlfriend Sarah and I were enjoying a quiet night at home. As a Marine Corps veteran, I cherished these moments of tranquility, far removed from the chaos of the battlefield. Little did I know, our peaceful night was about to take a bizarre and unsettling turn. Sarah and I were cuddled up on the couch, watching a movie and laughing at each other's jokes when suddenly, Sarah let out a gasp and pointed toward the window. My heart skipped a beat as I followed her gaze, and there, perched on the windowsill, was the unmistakable silhouette of the Mothman. At first, I couldn't believe my eyes. The Mothman, with its glowing red eyes and imposing wingspan, was known for many things, but Peeping Tom wasn't one of them. But sure enough, there it was, leering at us through the darkness like some twisted, perverted voyeur. Fear and anger surged through me as I leaped to my feet, ready to confront this unwanted intruder. But before I could reach the window, the Mothman spread its wings and took flight, disappearing into the night with a mocking screech. Sarah and I exchanged bewildered looks, unsure of what to make of the bizarre encounter. Was the Mothman spying on us? And if so, why? Determined to get to the bottom of this, I grabbed a flashlight and stormed outside, scouring the area for any sign of the perverted creature. But try as I might, the Mothman was nowhere to be found, leaving me feeling frustrated and unnerved. Back inside, Sarah and I tried to shake off the eerie feeling that lingered in the air. But as the night wore on, every creak of the floorboards and rustle of the curtains seemed to echo with the presence of the Mothman, reminding us that we were not alone. Unable to sleep, I kept watch through the night, half expecting the Mothman to return and resume its gross voyeuristic antics. But as the first light of dawn began to creep through the curtains, I realized that the creature had vanished as mysteriously as it had appeared, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a lingering sense of unease. In the days that followed, Sarah and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, that the Mothman was still out there, jerking in the shadows and spying on unsuspecting victims. And though we tried to convince ourselves that it was just a figment of our imaginations, deep down, we knew that the truth was far more terrifying. For in the dark corners of Point Pleasant, the Mothman remained a silent sentinel, its glowing eyes a constant reminder that some mysteries are better left unsolved. And as we slept with one eye open, we couldn't help but wonder, Would the sick freak Mothman return to haunt our dreams once more?
Picture this. I'm strolling down the streets of Point Pleasant, West Virginia, minding my own business, when suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I spot it, the Mothman. Now, I'm no stranger to urban legends, but seeing this giant moth-like creature with glowing red eyes perched on a lamppost was a whole new level of what in the world? But here's the kicker. Right as I'm trying to process what I'm seeing, a sleek black sedan pulls up beside me. And out steps these dudes in black suits and sunglasses straight out of a sci-fi movie. I mean, talk about timing. "Sir, we need you to come with us," one of them says in a deadpan voice that would put a robot to shame. Now, I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but even I know that getting into a mysterious black car with shady government agents is probably not the best idea. But hey, when life throws you a curveball in the form of the Mothman and the Men in Black, you roll with it, right? So, against my better judgment, I climb into the back seat of the sedan, sandwiched between two guys who look like they haven't cracked a smile since the Stone Age. As we speed off into the night, I can't help but wonder what kind of crazy adventure I've just stumbled into. We arrive at this top-secret government facility, think Area 51, but with more moth-themed decor, and I'm escorted into a dimly lit room by a guy who introduces himself as Agent Smith. Yeah, real original, buddy. Agent Smith starts asking me all sorts of questions about my encounter with the Mothman, scribbling notes on a clipboard like his life depends on it. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there trying not to laugh at the absurdity of the situation. I mean, who knew the government took cryptids so seriously? But just when I think things can't get any weirder, the door bursts open and in walks the Mothman himself, wings and all. Now, I don't know about you, but I never thought I'd be having a staring contest with a giant moth creature in a top-secret government facility. Turns out, the Men in Black have been tracking the Mothman for years, trying to unravel the mystery behind its existence. And somehow, I've managed to stumble right into the middle of their operation. Talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time. As the standoff between me, the Men in Black, and the Mothman unfolds, I can't help but wonder how I'm going to get out of this mess in one piece. But then, just when I think things couldn't possibly get any crazier, the Mothman lets out this high-pitched screech and disappears in a puff of smoke, leaving behind nothing but a lingering sense of confusion and chaos. I'm left sitting there in the dimly lit room, surrounded by government agents and unanswered questions, wondering if I'll ever make sense of what just happened. But hey, at least I've got one heck of a story to tell at the next family reunion. Who knew encountering the Mothman and the Men in Black could be so bizarrely entertaining?
My terrifying encounter with the Mothman. The forest was alive with darkness as I drove my pickup truck through the winding roads of rural West Virginia. Every shadow seemed to conceal 1,000 secrets, and a shiver ran down my spine, despite the warmth of the truck's cabin. As a Marine Corps veteran, I was no stranger to fear, but this was something else entirely. Glancing in my rearview mirror, I saw it, a figure emerging from the darkness, tall and menacing, with eyes that glowed like hot embers. My heart pounded in my chest as I recognized the unmistakable form of the Mothman. Panic surged through me like an electric shock, and I slammed my foot on the gas, desperate to escape. But the Mothman was relentless, its wings beating with a thunderous fury as it pursued me through the forest. With each turn of the road, it seemed to draw closer, its unearthly screech echoing through the night like a siren's call. I pushed my truck to its limits, swerving and dodging through the trees in a desperate bid for freedom. But no matter how fast I drove, the Mothman stayed hot on my tail, its glowing eyes burning into my soul with a malevolent intensity. With nowhere left to run, I veered off the road and into the dense undergrowth, the branches clawing at my truck like the hands of 1,000 lost souls. Trembling, I reached for the handgun tucked in my waistband, my fingers fumbling with the safety as I struggled to keep my composure. But before I could even take aim, The Mothman was upon me, its presence filling the air with a suffocating dread. I felt as though I were drowning in darkness, my every instinct screaming at me to flee. And then, with a final deafening screech, the Mothman vanished into the night, leaving me alone with my terror and the chilling realization that some nightmares are all too real.
Title: My Encounter with the Mothman. The sun had long since disappeared behind the horizon, leaving the forest cloaked in darkness. I, Sergeant Jake Thompson, found myself driving down a desolate road in rural West Virginia. The air was heavy with an ominous stillness, and a sense of unease settled over me, reminiscent of the battlefield. As I navigated the winding road in my pickup truck, a sudden chill gripped me, sending shivers down my spine. Glancing in the rearview mirror, I caught sight of something lurking in the shadows behind me. At first, I dismissed it as a trick of the light, but the feeling of being watched persisted, intensifying with each passing moment. Heart pounding, I tried to push aside my growing sense of dread and focus on the road ahead. But then, emerging from the darkness was a figure unlike anything I'd ever seen. Tall, imposing, with glowing red eyes that seemed to pierce through the night. It was the Mothman. Fear paralyzed me as I remembered the stories I'd heard. Tales of a creature that appeared before tragedy struck, a harbinger of doom. I slammed my foot on the accelerator, the engine roaring to life as I sped away. But the Mothman kept pace, its wings beating rhythmically as it hovered just above the tree line. Desperation clawed at me as I tried to outrun the creature, but it was futile. With nowhere left to turn, I veered off the road and into the dense forest, the branches scraping against the sides of my truck as I careened through the undergrowth. Still, the Mothman pursued, its unearthly screech echoing through the night. I reached for the handgun tucked in my waistband, my hands shaking as I aimed it at the creature. But even as I prepared to defend myself, I knew it was useless. This was no ordinary adversary. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the Mothman vanished into the darkness, leaving me alone in the silence of the forest. Trembling with fear and disbelief, I knew that I had encountered something beyond the realm of human understanding, something that would haunt me for the rest of my days.